Hello, and welcome to Personal Injury Today, where we discuss the important topics that attorneys need to understand to help their clients and to arrive to a fair settlement. We are here today with Dr. Brad Poppie. On today's show, we're diving into understanding the difference between an impairment rating and a functional capacity evaluation. Stay tuned and we'll get right in. On today's show, we're going to be talking about the two very big differences that Dr. Brad and his team at Injury Reporting Consultants gets regarding an impairment rating versus a functional capacity evaluation. Our first question is understanding the difference between these two things. Let's dive right in. Dr. Brad Poppie is here with us today, and he's the founder of Injury Reporting Consultants that really helps attorneys resolve personal injury cases through evidence-based medical analysis and reporting. Welcome.
Thank you.
So what is all of the buzz about this impairment rating and then the functional capacity evaluation? What's the difference between the two, and how do we get those confused?
It's a great question. I get this question a ton in my business. Attorneys will reach out all the time and ask, what's the difference? And while they're similar, they are vastly different. So let's dive in and talk a little bit about the impairment rating first. So the impairment rating is basically based on the 6th edition of the Guide to Evaluating Permanent Impairment by the American Medical Association. And it takes you through a whole algorithm of how we derive how someone's impairments and disabilities are equated to a number. They have a 10% impairment of their whole body impairment based on XYZ problems. Well, unfortunately, those impairment ratings do not equate to disability. So it becomes it's a number, okay? Well, what does that number really mean, okay? So sometimes attorneys will have an impairment rating on the case, which, yes, it's a number, and the insurance companies have or take some sort of value to that, but how does that number affect their life?
And that's the important part of the affecting their life.
Exactly. That's in a personal injury case, the hardest thing to show to an insurance adjuster or prove to a jury, should a case go to trial, is how does that person's, the accident and their impairments and disabilities affect their life, okay? That's where the functional capacity evaluation comes into play, or better known as the FCE, okay? So the FCE has been literally around for decades, and it was originally used in the workers' comp sector, and it still is today, but it's kind of bled over into the personal injury sector, okay? Because injury is injury. And what the FCE showcases or highlights is someone's impairments and disabilities and how they affect that person's ability to perform work-related activities of daily living, such as bathing, dressing, feeding yourself, instrumental activities of daily living, such as a little bit higher tier type functions, driving a car, cleaning your house, grocery shopping, household maintenance, things like that, and then on to leisure activities, okay? So the test is literally a 4-ish hour exam, okay? So at the end of that exam, that clinician knows how that person's presenting. They know their true impairments and disabilities and their feasibility to return to the workplace and or continue on with their life as they did prior to the accident.
That's a really great point. So just having an impairment rating isn't enough because we're not going deeper into understanding how this accident impacted the entire life of that client. So where are attorneys going wrong?
The attorneys are going wrong by not understanding the value of the FCE. Again, there's a reason why they've been around for 4 decades, okay? And it's because of their reliability and objectivity, okay, and validity. That's what really makes the insurance company understand the person's impairments and thus disabilities. And then let's touch on impairments versus disabilities. I think it's a good topic to kind of address. What is an impairment? An impairment is basically something where, let's say you get into a car accident and you have a knee dashboard injury, We see this a lot. So that person has an impairment of decreased range of motion, decreased strength, decreased, joint movement, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Those are the impairments. But the disabilities are what can that patient or client now not be able to do because of said impairments. So due to decreased range of motion and strength, they cannot transfer from sit to stand. They can no longer walk, et cetera. Those are the disabilities.
They can no longer perform their job.
Exactly. And those are all things that come out in the FCE.
So, Dr. Poppie, you've been in this work and in this field for 20 years, and you've testified in court on behalf of your clients, which are attorneys. Do you have a story to tell us or an example of either where an attorney did this right, they had both an impairment rating and an FCE, or maybe a situation where they came into court with only an impairment rating?
Absolutely, and I've seen this a ton. I've been on the stand when there has been, on the defense side, where the plaintiff maybe had an impairment rating, and that was kind of their ace in the hole, to help prove to the jury that this patient is hurt and they have XYZ impairment rating. And defense had an FCE on the case. And while that impairment rating, again, we talked about, is just a number versus I know what that patient can or can't do. I spent 4 hours with them, I know, okay? And I put them through the standardized test of the FCE. So it certainly, was not an equal weighted type testimony or trial, okay? So there was much more weight given to the FCE versus just the impairment rating.
That's perfect. Thank you. So if you're watching and you are getting some great value from this video, I want you to like, share, and subscribe. Like this video, share this video with other attorneys, maybe your clients and other people out there that need to know this information. And then make sure you hit the subscribe button as well as the bell notification so you don't miss any of our videos moving forward in the future. So Dr. Poppie, a really important question. How much does it matter how long or how much time has passed since the client's actual accident to how large their impairment rating is, or more specifically, how their impairments are impacting their life today?
When a patient gets into a car accident, they're going to go through your standardized treatment, and that typically consists of things like chiropractic, physical therapy, medical, medication management type things. And I always kind of refer to it as those are our left side of our tool belt treatment options. But then sometimes, we have to go to our right side of our tool belt and play on that side, and that's more of your non-invasive type spinal injections. Maybe they're medial branch blocks, maybe they're facet injections, radiofrequency nerve ablation procedures, and or onto full, blown orthopedic surgery, okay? And in general, most of the time, patients respond very well to that conservative treatment, but there's certainly times when they don't, and we have to do more invasive type treatment, okay? So the ones that respond well to conservative treatment, their impairment ratings may be very, very low. Or in an FCE, they may not show too many impairments or disabilities because they're pretty good. Maybe they're 90% better. Maybe they're 100% better, okay? But if a patient has what we call chronic pain, when I say chronic pain, I'm talking pain that's been there for 6 months or greater. And we see that a lot. Many patients never recover fully from car accidents, okay? So the longer a patient has XYZ problems with accompanied pain, okay, more time goes by and those impairment ratings get higher and higher and higher. And the functional capacity evaluation shows more and more and more impairments and thus disabilities. And what we start to see inadvertently is what we call a deconditioning syndrome. So let's say a patient has been off of work for 8 months, due to their car accident because of pain and impairments and disability. Well, what starts to happen, and here's an example, again, back to the knee dashboard injury. Person hurts their knee, maybe they're not walking or they're walking kind of asymmetrically and kind of babying it. What we start to see is other impairments in the other knee. Maybe they develop low back pain. Okay, now we've got two or maybe
trickle effect.
It's a trickle effect. We've got 2 or 3 joints affected. Now total body impairment goes up. Okay, FCE, findings get worse and worse and worse. Okay, so that is a huge issue when you talk time frame, after a car accident, how well a patient responds.
That's perfect. Thank you so much. So that's it for today's show. Thank you again for watching. Feel free to reach out to Dr. Brad Poppie at IRC if you have any questions at all, if you need help with your clients, and make sure that you add a comment below the video with your questions that you'd like us to answer in an upcoming show. Thanks again, and until next time.